friends. Happy Thursday. How you doing? Happy summer. If you're listening real time, this is Kirsten, your decision coach for the episode. And today we're going to talk about one of the most fun and most useful concepts that I think exist in the decision mastery repertoire. Again, we are pulling from our decision mastery fundamentals. Everything that I teach clients inside the Decision Masters program, which is a small group coaching program that is coming up at the end of the year again. So get your butt on the wait list for that. And it's everything that comes up in my private one-on-one coaching with clients more organically through the course of our work together. These are the fundamentals I've created in my work, coaching people with an emphasis on conscious decision making over the past 6.5 years. And why today's subject has a special little place in my heart is, well, it's manyfold. I almost even said twofold, but it's manyfold, I think. One, I love a framework. Y'all might be on my same page with this. I love something that make ideas accessible. I'm also a resource junkie and constantly trying to learn new things that can help me feel better and help me think better and help my clients. Anything that make the tools and concepts and ideas and reminders more accessible. Anything that puts those on the eye level shelf, chef's kiss. So that's something that I love about our topic for today. The other reason that I just love today's concept is because it was inspired by a coach I worked with, gosh, years ago now, Maggie Reyes. She's been on the podcast. I will link to her interview in the show notes. She is a marriage coach, and I'll explain the inspiration behind today's idea and what it has to do with her. So today we're talking about decision detox. Let's detox. Let's clear out some stuff that's maybe making things harder than they need to be, more inefficient than they need to be, more complicated than they need to be. And let's just make some stuff run more smoothly in the decision department. What this has to do with Coach Maggie Reyes is she teaches a concept called emotional weight loss tools. I think she has a podcast episode about it. So if she does, I will link that in the show notes too. And I just love this idea. She teaches about emotional weight loss. The concept is kind of based on this idea that if you cut out sugar and flour, it makes weight loss easier. Whether or not that's true, that's not what we're talking about. It's just we're talking about the idea, right? The concept of like, what can you cut out of a process that makes things easier for some people? So she applied this idea to emotion. What can we cut out of our emotional habits to make emotions easier and feel like we're not weighed down by them? I just think it's a brilliant concept. I also have to say, for the record, especially as I'm recording these right before I get on a plane and go to my favorite place on the planet, Italy, where I plan on consuming pretty much nothing but sugar and flour. I'm a big fan. So, like I said, we're not here to talk about nutrition or eating habits. I'm just like being honest about where I stand. We are going to be having lots of pasta, lots of desserts, and we're going to be living our best lives. Happy birthday to me. So when Maggie taught us this concept in her coaching, it really made sense to me just because of the framework. I can think of cutting these things out and making this easier. So naturally, my brain said, why don't we do this for decision making, everybody? Thusly, the decision detox principles were born. I'm going to be referencing my decision mastery workbook, the one all my clients get, that houses all of these core principles. So, what are the proverbial flour and sugar of decision making? What can we cut out from our decision making process that can make that process just a lot lighter, a lot easier, a lot more effective? We're going to take a high level look at these because I just introduced this idea to you. This is stuff I work with clients on over time because we're talking about deeply ingrained habits and lifelong patterns here. So, we're not going to just cut anything out and stop doing it tomorrow, but we are going to introduce the idea that this could be a really effective habit change to take on. And if you need help, that's what I'm here for. The decision detox principles are not complicated. I identify 3 unhelpful patterns, habits, behaviors that we get into that when you notice them is a great cue to stop the decision process and do something else to get yourself out of that old habit. This is how over time you detoxify these unhelpful habits from your normal decision making process. The three behaviors are spinning, shaming, and snowballing. Oh my. Remember, our idea here is what can we cut out of our decision making norms, our decision system that would make the process a lot more efficient and enjoyable, and it would create better results. And if we think about a lot of our most energy consuming, least effective habits when it comes to decision making, this is where a lot of us get stuck spinning, shaming, and snowballing. So what I'm going to do is go through a little bit of what does each of these behaviors look like? How do you know you're spinning? How do you know you're shaming? What are the many flavors of these things that can show up in our lives? You're going to get better and better at noticing when you're doing that, recognizing it as an unhelpful habit, an ineffective decision tool, and you're going to get better and better at interrupting the pattern with something intentional that's going to set you up to make a better choice. And as you know, I am all about bringing these concepts down to the ground level reality. I really want you to think about using these principles in your everyday life this week. So as I go through these examples, think about, ooh, I might have had an opportunity 2 days ago to use this, or I anticipate an opportunity to use this at this upcoming thing that I can see on my calendar. The first behavior we're detoxing is spinning. This is when you're repeating stressful thoughts. I remember when I used to get into really deep spin cycles, it was like my brain was stuck on a loop and it was like, you're not going to figure this out. That's a problem. You still don't know this. And it wasn't helpful because it wasn't reminding me of anything I didn't know or nudging me in some kind of potential direction of a solution. It was literally just like throwing eggs at me at my front door. Like, problem, stressful thought, problem. We can also get into spinning when we're stuck in a circular problem. This is when you're convincing yourself that you can't do this until you do that. And this is impossible because you can't do this. And you really talk yourself in circles to the point where you've lost all sight of whether you even want to find a solution because you are repeating to yourself, almost justifying or defending the fact that you're in an impossible situation. There's a problem and you can't solve it. Ruminating, we spin and ruminate, we ruminate and spin, you know. We also spin when we get into a problem focus, when we're just fixated on the fact that there is something we don't like, or there's something that we don't know how to do, or there's a challenge that we wish wasn't there, or we don't know how to solve. And we just spin and spin and spin and are focused on the fact that that problem exists. Spinning is not an effective mindset or energy from which to make conscious, empowered decisions. You do not do your best thinking from inside a spin cycle. So, what you're going to do when you notice that you're spinning, doing any of those behaviors we just mentioned, you're going to stop the decision process. You're going to press pause on this little combo with yourself, trying to make a decision. I don't care how big or small it is. I don't care if it's about lunch plans. I don't care if it's about the job you're taking next. If you're in a spin cycle, what you're going to do is close a stress loop. Mental spinning is a great indicator that you are in physiological stress. And no matter what the stressors are creating or contributing to that stress, once your body's stressed and it's affecting your brain, you're not going to think yourself out of that situation. And this can be a tough habit to change, especially if you are used to talking things out or you are used to problem solving and really living in your head. You have to interrupt clients a fair amount when we're having our sessions because our sessions are made of talking, but it can be a really attractive habit to get into to focus on your problem and then just all of a sudden work yourself into a spin cycle and not recognize that you've worked your body into stress. And that has not primed your body to support your brain in making a clear headed, conscious decision that serves you. So, what I do in sessions is interrupt people and ask them to stop talking, to pause the conversation they're having with themselves about whatever this stressor is or problem is, and do something to process their physical emotions. Close a stress loop means have a good cry. It means have a good laugh. It means go do something physical to release some adrenaline and endorphins. It means have a connection moment with another human. It means express yourself creatively. There are lots of different ways to physically process emotions, but the point of this tool in the decision detox framework is that you are discontinuing the decision and interrupting the spin cycle. And you're acknowledging the fact that, hey, I'm spinning. I should close a stress loop so I don't just live and operate with these open stress loops all over town, asking myself to function at a level that I'm not at physically. All right. The second behavior that we are detoxing from our decision system is shaming. This means finding yourself in a tough moment and talking to yourself in ways like, this shouldn't be hard. It doesn't matter if you're trying something physical or cognitive or emotional. Telling yourself something shouldn't be hard when you are finding it hard, not helpful. It's actually putting yourself down, shaming yourself. We can also shame ourselves in ways like saying things like, I'm such an idiot, or I always do this. It really comes down to noticing how you're talking to and thinking about yourself. And when you notice, you're going to interrupt that pattern. And what are we going to do, friends? Coming off the heels of our last theory, we are going to practice self compassion instead. I know that you are a rock star at that now. If you need any reminding on the detail, the nitty gritty of how it looks and sounds to practice self compassion, you can revisit some of our earlier episodes. I think episodes 101 through 104 were all about self compassion. So we are going to detox this out of our way of decision making. It shows up a lot in our choices. We shame ourselves into things we don't want to do, and we shame ourselves out of things that we do want to do. And we waste our energy and we erode our self trust by spending a lot of time and energy on shaming. So we're going to detox it out. The final behavior that we are detoxing today is snowballing. Raise your hand or raise an eyebrow if you're driving if you ever find yourself at step 4 out of however many, who knows even how long this process is going to go. But you are actively, physically stressing about step 46. We're all, but you're overactive, super hardworking, extra problem solving, troubleshooting, potentially anxious, very thorough brain has time traveled into the future where circumstances are actually impossible to know, but you're freaking out right here, right now, today. And it's stunting your decision making. It is getting you stuck in inaction because your idea of stress about today has snowballed so far into the future. You also know you're snowballing when you're in fear focus. This is a little bit like problem focus, except we're wrapped up in our fears and we're focused on what we don't want to happen, what we're scared of happening, what the worst case would be. You might actually think that you are having a helpful conversation with yourself if you're thinking about exploring job opportunities or going out on a limb and trying some scary thing that you've never done. And you're constantly talking to yourself about, what if I wake up in 5 years and I find out I made a mistake and I'm not happy and that's not what I wanted to do and that's going to be wrong? Or what if I try this and I fail and I'm not as good as I thought it was going to be and it's a waste of my time and everyone thinks I'm a failure and then I think I'm a failure? We think sometimes we're just being honest with ourselves when actually we are going into fear focus and we are snowballing all of our stress, all of our fears. Now, of course, you can revisit episodes 91 to 92, all about fear in decision making. But before you do that, as part of your detox regimen, you're going to start noticing when you're in snowball mode. You're going to interrupt that pattern, pause that thinking, and you're going to start making self agreements instead. This is a much more useful conversation you can have with yourself about all of these fears that are flying all around and all of these concerns and all these worries that we don't want to dismiss, but we don't want to indulge. What an agreement with yourself means is essentially finishing the conversation that your animal brain, that your stressed out brain keeps starting. So when you're in snowball mode, your brain is kind of lobbing these fears at you, right? What if we wake up in 5 years and we don't like where we're at? Instead of living in that stress and making any next decision from that place, you're going to acknowledge the fact that you just voiced a fear. And you're going to continue the conversation, whether that looks like, well, what are we going to do about this? Or how likely is that? Or do I think I can survive that? However you want to continue the conversation. Fear fluency is another one of those skills that I work with a lot with people so that we can get you fluent in this language that you're always speaking. So I don't want you to put too much pressure on yourself for being an expert at this immediately. But I do want you to be aware of the concept. That's what we're doing today. We're just introducing ideas so that you can try them out. So when it comes to snowball thinking, you're going to interrupt that pattern by finding an agreement you can make with yourself. Even if it's as simple as, all right, I'm aware of a fear that I'm going to wake up in 5 years and not like where my life is. What I need to do right now with that to stop snowballing into that worst case scenario catastrophe is to agree with myself that I am going to pay attention to my happiness. I am not going to put my head in the sand for 5 years and then wake up to assess if I like my life or not. Pretty useful agreement you can make with yourself, right? Let's take it down from career choices to the weekend plans. What if you have been asked to participate in something at your kid's school and you're snowballing about, well, if I do this, then they're going to ask me for that. And then I'm going to get roped into that. And then I'm not going to have a time for this. That's a really common everyday example of snowballing. We're going to detox. You're going to notice, hey, I'm snowball stressing. I'm focused on fears. I'm making stuff bigger in my head and I'm stressed out now. What agreements do I need to make with myself? What I just heard when we were running through that catastrophe snowball version of your weekend was that you need to agree with yourself that you're going to have some boundaries. If you're worried about this turning into that and growing into that, you can agree with yourself. These are the boundaries I'm going to enact. Here's how I'm going to make it easy. Here's how I'm going to not let anything snowball into what I don't want it to be. So I know we zoomed through that, but I just want to give you a taste of the kind of things that we talk about in our decision coaching and especially in the Decision Masters program, but also give you this framework because we can walk around our lives making things very complicated and really focusing on what we're not doing, what tools we're not using. I just want you to have this available in your back pocket. Try on some decision detox this week. Notice if you have a favorite, if your go-to happens to be spinning or snowballing. And try this detox out. Really see what happens when you interrupt the pattern on purpose with this very specific targeted response that's going to help you get to a better mental and physical state and make a decision you like. And let me know what happens. Make sure we're connected, please. And thank you. On Instagram, I am at KP Coaching. And on TikTok, I am at The Decision Coach. I would love to hear what you think of this episode and what you get out of these ideas. And if you would love to talk more about this stuff and turn them into your everyday habits, then make sure that you click the link below to find out how we can work together. The next Decision Masters program is coming up at the end of the year, but I'm also working with people privately and in the Alignment and Accountability Club. And I would love to find a way to support you that works for you. So cheers to your decision health, my friend. I hope you enjoy getting a little detoxified. I'll see you next week. Hey, want to find out your decision style? Obviously, go take the decision style quiz. It's in the show notes and at kirstenparker.com/quiz. We all have our style when it comes to making decisions, but do you know how to use your default way of thinking to your advantage? Or do you mainly get stuck in the most annoying parts of overthinking and people pleasing? The decision style quiz has your answers, my friend. Take it right now at kirstenparker.com/quiz.